Dating as a girly is such a beautiful experience. Well, it should be a beautiful experience. Because truthfully, dating as a woman in 2025 can just be a hot mess at times. So, adding height to the mix, like being a tall girly, can make it an even hotter mess. And some of the experiences I've heard and read about honestly validate the last point that I just made. From their dates lying about their height on dating apps, to their dates telling them not to wear heels, to the oversexualizing comments, to being rejected solely based on height. And the list just goes on and on and on. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the reality of dating as a tall woman and how some of the tall girlies are turning what seems to be a very difficult experience into a more fun and positive one. So let's get into it. Good morning, everybody. You are currently listening to A Tall Girls podcast, hosted by a tall girl named India. I hope everyone who is tuning in today is doing super fantastic. Before I get into this episode, I do want to say, make sure you follow me on my socials at A Tall Girls podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest so that you can stay up to date on all of the latest podcast episodes and catch a glimpse of my everyday life. Also, feel free to leave me a review and let me know how tall you are. I'm genuinely curious. I also have a monthly newsletter. Make sure you subscribe to that. Everything is going to be linked in the description. I hope everybody who's listening right now is doing super fantastic. As you can tell, today's topic is going to be dating as a tall girly. And this episode is actually inspired by one of the comments that I received under one of my TikTok videos, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But truth be told, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I rarely talk about dating as a tall girly on this podcast. I don't know. I feel like it's a bit cringe. Is that weird to say? I honestly don't know how to explain it, but it's a real struggle that a lot of tall women have, a lot of tall women go through. And honestly, I probably think that it's a bit weird because I don't have too much experience in that department or really too many stories or at least outrageous stories, aside from the fact that, my 7th grade crush told me he would never date somebody as huge as me. Yeah. But I'm going to ask this question early on. Is dating as a tall woman really as hard as some of us are making it out to be? And I've heard everything from calling it an extreme sport to it just being non-existent. Anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I did ask you guys in a poll over on Instagram, and I'm going to do a quick little plug here. Make sure you follow me at A Tall Girls podcast so you can participate in these polls and have your opinions heard on these episodes. But I did ask you guys, tall girlies, what would you say your dating experiences have been like? And feel free to DM me any stories. 29% of you guys said mainly bad. 18% said mainly good, and 53% said a healthy mix of good and bad. And I'm actually very happy that it's a healthy mix of good and bad. I think that's how it should be overall. We need to appreciate the good experiences as much as the bad experiences because, the bad experiences is for the plot, it's for the character development, period. But I'm really glad to see that a lot of you guys have had a healthy mix of good and bad. But then the second highest answer was mainly bad, and I'm like, oh no, I'm sorry to hear that, y'all. But yeah, it seems like some of the tall girlies are having a little bit of a hard time when it comes to dating, or are just straight up having terrible experiences. Let's hear from a couple tall girlies.
Dating as a tall woman should honestly be considered an extreme sport because it is so hard to even find somebody that I am physically attracted to that is taller than me that I actually have a connection with and vibe with. And it's honestly insane how intimidated a lot of people are by me in general. Like, people find it scary when you're a tall girl, or people think I'm gonna be mean. And a lot of guys will even if they're taller than me, I went out with a guy that was 6'1" recently, and he was so insecure about it. He was at first he was I'm an alpha male. He didn't say that specifically, but he was I'm masculine. I'm not afraid of a tall woman, whatever. And then he goes basically you can't wear heels around me. And I was I'm gonna wear heels. It's immature the way that these guys act, and they just want to kind of nag me and take me down several notches. And it's so weird how something like height is something that they are totally insecure about. But the really hot, tall guys, they want the cutesy girls. I swear to God, they want the cute, short, petite girl. So I never pull like the really, really tall guys. Like it's usually the guy that's like 6'1", 6'2", like barely taller than me, or the guys that are short that love me and fetishize me the most. But I never pull the guy that's like 6'6" or taller. Like they go for girls that are short most of the time.
So I'm from Miami, grew up here, and I'm 5'8", which makes me somewhat a tall girl here in Miami. When I wear heels, like 3-4 inches tall heels, usually I'm like, 5'11", 6 feet tall if you do the math. I think I look pretty tall on social media, but nonetheless, whenever I meet a guy, I always tell them, I'm 5'8", right? Like I'm tall. I literally disclose this because it's important to me. So I think it's important to tell the other person your height. And usually men are like, oh yeah, no, I'm 5'9", I'm 5'10", and then they show up and they're 2 inches shorter than me while I'm not wearing any heels. How am I 5'8" and you're 5'10", but you're actually 2 inches shorter than me? Somebody's lying here, and it's you. And the worst part is that they get mad if you ghost them and you don't talk to them after the first date. You lied to me. No, just because you were so charming on the first date is not gonna help me forget that you lied to me about your height, and you started off this whole getting to know each other with a lie instead of telling me your height. And if I wanted to date a short king, which a lot of girls are okay with dating men shorter than them, I will go on the date with you, but don't lie to me and then show up and be 2-3 inches shorter than me. You're not gonna see me again.
Now, there's something about dating as a tall woman that really isn't spoken about enough, and it presented itself in a comment that was under one of my TikTok videos. The TikTok video that was asking the tall girlies what's something about being a tall woman that isn't spoken about enough. And this person commented, overlooking red flags in men because your pool is just not plenty of fish. It's way harder to find a tall match. So basically, it seems like what this person is saying is that as tall women, some of us feel like we don't have a lot of options, mainly because we're looking for partners who are maybe our height or taller. And, being, let's say, 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", looking for somebody at that height or taller than that, like, it's like the taller you are, the less people that are going to be around your height, essentially. It's going to be harder to find somebody who's around your height or taller. So we already feel as though we have limited options. And because we may feel as though we have limited options, we may just settle for whatever it seems like. Like the girlie who commented, overlooking red flags. We overlook the red flags for the sake of finding a partner who's around our height or taller. And we're more so going to be talking a lot about heterosexual relationships in this episode. I feel like same-sex relationships are a little bit different, but we're going to talk a tiny bit about that later in this episode. But yeah, the tall girlies may more so want to date taller men, and and it's not like there's a whole bunch of them out there that's like 6 foot, 6'1" and taller and so forth. And then on top of that, you have the short girlies taking them from us, apparently, according to the previous episode that I did last week, even though it kind of seems like the taller men are also going for the shorter girlies, but that's a topic of discussion for another day. But as I said before, it feels like our options are extremely limited and we just settle for whatever. So what exactly does that look like? One example could possibly be that a lot of times it's said that taller men are boring. They're boring, they're basic, they lack personality. And a common reason that is listen, this is just like a general thing. I'm not saying that I think this. This is just a general thing. But a common reason that they're boring, bland, basic, whatever, is because they're tall. And because they're tall, they don't have to have personality to get people to be attracted to them. People are already attracted to them because of their height. And so they don't have to have any type of depth or whatever. They don't have to have anything else, any other good qualities because, their height is enough. They may even feel as though they don't have to put the extra effort in because they're tall, and being tall as a man is seen as desirable. However, because, the man is taller, the tall woman may overlook the fact that he's not putting as much effort in, or he's boring and lacks personality and so forth, for the sake of having a partner who's taller than her or as tall as her. Now, is this true? Are the taller men boring? I don't know how to answer that, okay? Because I've met taller men who aren't boring, and I've met taller men who are boring, just like how I've met shorter men who are boring and shorter men who aren't boring. The idea of what's boring is pretty subjective. Like, everybody's idea of what's boring and bland and whatever is ultimately up to them and how they view what boring is. I don't even know what I just said, but I'm sure you know what I mean. But are taller men more likely to be dry? Are they more likely to be nonchalant? It's a possibility. In my experiences, the taller ones are more likely to act like that. I'm not saying that it's all of them, but it's just a pattern that I've seen. Don't come for me. The tall girlies may still go after that dry, nonchalant, taller man because he is 3 inches taller. I don't know. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, and if you have any experiences, feel free to share them. Now, there's a flip side for settling for someone who is shorter than us, a little bit shorter than us, much shorter than us, or it's just somebody who's around our height. And the men, since we're talking about heterosexual relationships, the men may be a bit jealous because we're taller or tall in general. They may be insecure around us, insecure because of the height difference. Let's actually listen to an example really quickly before I get into this part.
This is why I don't date short men. I've already made videos regarding why I don't date short men, but I keep getting questions, so I'm just gonna answer them. So one of the biggest questions I've gotten is when was the last time I've dated a short guy? And the thing to me is short to me is if you're my height or shorter than me, right? So I am 6 feet tall. Arguably, apparently, I might be 6'1". But when I'm dating a guy, anyone who's 6 feet or shorter than me is a short guy, okay? To some other women, they probably are tall. A 5'10" to somebody who is 5 feet, a 5'10" is gonna be really tall for them, right? For me, that's shorter than me. It's not gonna work for me. And there's many reasons why it's never worked for me. One, I've always had to deal with jealousy. And it comes out in various ways too. I've had an ex who told me he didn't like the fact that when I walked into a room that people would look at me. As a 6 feet tall girl as well, I like to wear heels. I don't want to limit myself for wearing heels just because I'm taller. So when I'm wearing heels, I can end up being 6'3", 6'4", okay? I've dated a guy who was 6 feet tall, and he hated the fact that I wore heels. And he was like, well, I don't like the fact that you tower over me. But he liked heels. He's like, I like women who wear heels, but I don't like the fact that you're taller than me, because now I feel smaller than you. Every time that I've tried to date someone that was shorter than me, they all claim they love taller women. They're like, oh, I love legs. I'll climb that tree. They always say the same thing, and they always end up down the road not liking the fact that I'm taller. Every time, without fail.
But we've seen this type of behavior, right? I don't know how many episodes ago this was, but I know it was recently that I spoke about a woman who she's about 6', 6'1", and a lot of the rude comments, a lot of the annoying jokes and so forth regarding her height came from men who are just slightly shorter than her or at her height. And this is mainly because there's, I guess, some standard that they have to hit where it's they have to be taller than the girl that they're attracted to, or they have to be at least 6 feet tall to be part of the 6 foot club. And because they just barely missed that mark, they're pressed about it. That's part of it. And honestly, what I don't understand is how are you going to get into a relationship with someone fully knowing that you're not secure about your height, or you're going to be insecure about the height difference? You're jealous of her height. Why would you still get into a relationship with her? And so how that may present itself, it's they may make comments about your height. They may tell you not to wear heels on a date, or ask you, why are you wearing heels? Or just say little sly things as a way to kind of humble you or bring you down or something, or in an attempt to make themselves feel better about their height. I don't know. But sometimes the tall girlies stay with that person for a while because they think it's like, maybe they might think it's out of love, or they may think that, oh, nobody's gonna want to be with me because of my height, but this person is with me despite my height, and I just have to do like a few extra things to appease that person. And please know that you don't try to shrink yourself for anybody, not just a partner, for anybody. I want to say that right off the bat. But that could also be a possibility. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on that. But I think it's a very interesting point that tall girlie brought up, how some tall women may overlook red flags because there's not that many options. So we feel like we just have to settle for whatever so that we can at least have a partner who's around our height or taller than us, or just have a partner in general. So let's go over some tall girl dating red flags to look out for. If they tell you not to wear heels around them, red flag. If you get any hint that they're jealous of your height, red flag. Any mention of breeding to make D1 babies, red flag. Am I missing anything? Now that we got that covered, the next thing that I kind of want to talk about when it comes to dating as a tall woman is the height dilemma. And I'm sure we all kind of understand that idea, again, talking more so about heterosexual relationships, because I honestly feel like in same-sex relationships, let's say we're just women dating women, I feel like height doesn't matter as much. I mean, to a degree, it kind of does. Everybody has their own preferences and so forth. And sometimes there are women who still want to date women who are taller than them. Okay, everybody has their own preferences. But I just think that it matters a little bit less than it does in heterosexual relationships. And we kind of all know the height dilemma, how the tall girlies want taller men because oftentimes women more so want men who are taller than them. So the tall girlies want taller men, but the taller men want the short girlies. Yeah. Honestly, do tall men even like tall women? The tall girlies want to know because they're convinced that the taller men prefer the shorter women. But yeah, honestly, this one is all about preferences, but I can kind of see it. I mean, it's not crazy to think that taller men, and I'm talking about like above average, like 6 foot and up, prefer shorter women. Like there was a comment under a video, I don't even know if I can find it, but I remember seeing a comment under a video when I was looking for TikTok videos to include in this episode. I remember seeing a comment of a guy saying that he's like 6'3" or 6'5", and he only goes for women who are 5'8" and under. Now, why is this the case? Shorter women are often the traditional symbol of femininity because they try to say, oh, the more petite you are, the smaller you are, the daintier you are, the more likely you are to be associated with femininity. And I guess they're into that. I think another thing, which is a bit creepy and a bit scary, but I think it could also be a thing of like a power dynamic. Like it's easier to have more control over that person because they're shorter. I don't know. It's sick, but I think that it could be a thing. Honestly don't know 110%. But yeah, let's listen to this clip really quickly.
As someone who's like a small tall, like 5'8", I have a theory about really, really tall guys tending to gravitate towards shorter girls, okay? So I notice that guys that are shorter, average, or even average tall, so I would consider average tall to be like anywhere between 6 feet and 6'2". They're all willing to date women that are on the taller side relative to them, whereas I find that guys that are really on the taller side, like over 6'5", tend to gravitate towards girls who are on the shorter side. I have a theory for this. I think that, I think the reason for this is that guys that are over 6'5", like subconsciously wrap their whole identity up in being tall, because I think people throughout their lives tend to point it out. As soon as they walk in the room, people ask like, what's the weather like up there? So it really becomes like baked into their identity, and it's kind of who they are as a person. Whereas men that are between short and average tall, even a person who's average tall, like 6 feet to 6'2", when they walk into a room, people aren't looking up asking them how the weather is up there, right? Yeah, I mean, people know that they're tall, but it's like a normal amount of tall, right? The whole identity isn't wrapped up in being 6 foot per se. They're tall, but it's not like, a defining part of their identity. So I think they're more willing to date women that are on the taller side relative to them for that reason. It doesn't really take away from anything that constitutes their identity as a person. Whereas I think guys that are really tall, like over 6'5", I think tend to like shorter women because it really highlights and exaggerates and puts on on the center stage the fact that they're tall, which again is like a huge part of their identity.
But listen, everybody has their own preferences and everybody is entitled to their own preferences, okay? There are definitely people out there who would love to be with a tall woman. There are people out there who actually prefer to be with tall women. I just feel like it's not widely spoken about enough, or it's just not, like, especially on social media, it's not displayed enough, truth be told. Like, I feel like it's out there, it's just not being shown or not being given enough attention. And it's like, if the person really does like you, if they really like being around you, if they like your personality, if they like other physical qualities about you, height is just one thing about you. It's just one trait. It's just one physical quality. It shouldn't, honestly, it shouldn't be a problem if that person really likes you and really wants to be with you. And listen, like, there is actual proof out there. There are a lot of tall women who I follow on Instagram, on TikTok, who have husbands who are shorter than them, married. I don't know if they have a house, but married, kids, everything. And they're just so happy with each other. Let's listen to this example.
I'm a 6'4" woman, and back in college, there was this 5'8" guy who told me, "You're my girlfriend, you just don't know it yet." And I said, "The shortest I would go is 6'1", so you don't make a cut." He laughed, but we ended up talking every single day, and I realized not only is this guy like handsome and funny, but he also has layers to him, and he's so masculine and he's such a gentleman. So 2 weeks after that, he told me, "We are not doing this. You are my girlfriend, or we're just walking away from each other right now and we are not talking anymore." 13 years later, I have not one, but two of these man's children. So what has clocked to me then is that short king is not the height, it's the energy. And I hope that's clocking to you too.
I asked you guys in another poll, would you go for someone shorter than you? 14% of you guys said, yes, my current or past partner is shorter than me. 38% said no, only taller than me. 14% said I prefer someone around the same height as me. And 34% said love is love. And honestly, love is love. I love to see that. I love to see a lot of you guys actually chose that. I guess that answer, I don't know. I did this poll at 1 a.m, so I can't really say why I put that as a choice, but I think that's kind of to show that there's really no preference, like just going for anybody. So I think that a good portion of you guys just don't really care about the height, it seems like. You can let me know in the comments if I'm correct in assuming that, but it seems like a lot of you guys don't have a preference. A good third of you guys don't have a strong preference. It's just whoever you love, whoever you want to be with. And then of course the most is no, only taller than me. I kind of expected that. I kind of figured that. However, I did get a response from one of you guys saying my husband and I are basically the same height and I wouldn't have it any other way. And honestly, I vibe with that. In my personal opinion, I also prefer somebody who's like around the same height. Like if they're like a centimeter shorter than me, like that's not gonna hurt anybody. I think a person who's around my height is honestly my preference. That's just my opinion, if y'all care. But I agree, love is love. No matter the height, if you want to be with that person, be with that person. And if that person wants to be with you, they're gonna be with you. No matter if you're taller or shorter or at the same height as them. Period. All in all, tall women deserve partners who love and celebrate their height, not try to compete with it or make them feel insecure about it. My advice to the tall girlies is to never shrink yourself for anybody. And yeah, that is my 2 cents, and that is the episode, and I'm gonna end it here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Of course, as always, feel free to hit me up on my socials at a Tall Girls Podcast. Going to be linked in the description, and let me know what you thought about this episode. Do you have like any crazy tall girl dating experiences? What do you think about the 2 points that I made? Like the first one where some tall women overlook red flags because they feel as though they don't have many options, so they just settle for whatever is out there or whoever wants to be with them, whether it's a taller taller man who is dry and bland or nonchalant, or a guy who's around her height or maybe shorter but makes her feel insecure about her height, but she feels as though nobody else is going to want to be with somebody who's as tall as her. I would actually love to hear your thoughts on that, because that's a very interesting point. And then also the height dilemma. We all know about the height dilemma. Let me know your thoughts on that too. I'm genuinely curious. And thank you again so much for listening to this episode up to this point. And if you're a returning listener, thank you for listening every single week or every few weeks or however often you listen. Thank you for supporting this podcast. Thank you for all of the comments, all of the likes, all of the participation and my polls for these episodes. I really do appreciate it. You guys are definitely making this a thing. So I just want to say that I really do appreciate you guys for tuning in and being active listeners and participating. And yeah, of course, feel free to hit me up. You're always welcome to do that. And until then, I will catch you in the next one. Good night and goodbye.